boys and girls. I'm standing in for Mandy this morning because her voice still isn't quite working properly, but she's much better. Thank you for all of those of you that have been praying and trying to encourage her. I'm sure she'll be back soon to tell the stories. In the meantime, it's my story, and this week's story here is all about If Only I Had a Green Nose. We got some pictures for you to see as we go through the book, and we're visiting our old friends, the Wemmicks, the wooden people made by Eli. Do you remember? Let's get started. Lucia and Punchinello looked out the window of Eli's workshop. Like other Wemmicks, they were wooden people. But unlike the other Wemmicks, they weren't standing in a line in the village down below. "Look at them all!" Punchinello exclaimed. "I don't understand it," Lucia wondered. "Why would anyone want to paint his nose green?" "Because everyone else is," Eli responded, without looking up from his workbench. But Punchinello didn't understand. "What do you mean?" "Everyone wants to look like everyone else. Sometimes it's square hats, sometimes it's tall shoes. Why, last year the big thing was yellow ears. Now it's green noses. Everyone wants a green nose." "Does a green nose make them smarter, cleverer?" Punchinello asked. "No." "Does a green nose make them stronger?" "No." "Does it make them faster?" "No." "Then what does a green nose make them?" Eli looked up and smiled. "Greener." But his smile left as he looked out the window at the long line of Wemmicks. "They think they'll be happier if they look like everyone else. But I made them different on purpose. Freckles, long noses, bright eyes, dark eyes. These were my ideas. Now they all want to look the same." "Not me," said Lucia. "I'm happy just the way you made me." "Me too," agreed Punchinello. "I don't need a green nose to feel special." Then he paused and looked at the village. "But I would like to see how a green nose looks up close. Do you want to go?" Eli smiled as the two stood to leave. "Just remember, I made you different on purpose," he told them. From street level, the line looked even longer and the noses even greener. Lucia and Punchinello worked their way to the front of the crowd, and they watched as one Wemmick after another stepped into the nose-colouring store and came out painted. "It's the latest thing," barked a Wemmick on the sidewalk. "Don't be the only Wemmick with a plain nose." "Who is that?" asked Punchinello. Lucia shrugged. "I don't know." "Why, that's Mr. Willy Withet," volunteered a Wemmick from behind them. "Does he run the nose-painting store?" asked Punchinello. "More than that," the Wemmick explained. "Painted noses were his idea. So were the square hats, and the tall shoes, and the yellow ears. New things are his thing. He decides what's with it. Isn't he the best?" Lucia and Punchinello took a good look at this tall Wemmick with a deep voice, a big smile, a tall hat, a green bow tie that matched his oh-so-great green nose. Both were thinking the same question. Lucia asked it. "Who made him the new thing picker?" The Wemmick looked puzzled, like he'd never been asked that question before. "Well, I don't know. He always has. Then his eyes brightened. "Wait, look, here comes a new nose." "Oh," said the Wemmicks. "Ah," admired some of the others. The just painted Wemmick didn't stop to speak. He just kept his nose in the air and walked past. All the green-nosed Wemmicks did this. After all, how could your nose be seen if it wasn't in the air? Walking around high-nosed, however, was risky. Wemmicks walked into doors, walls, even each other. Lucia and Punchinello had to be very careful. One Wemmick took up the whole street. Step back, he announced. It was the mayor. "Make way, every Wemmick. My wife is coming for a touch-up." With one hand he waved back to the citizens, and with the other he guided her through the crowd. "Horrible! Just horrible!" she cried, covering her nose with her hands. "I chipped some paint when I bumped into a tree. Now the real me is showing. Horrible! Just horrible!" As the crowd passed, Lucia shook her head. Such a fuss over a green nose. "Yes," agreed Punchinello, "you'll never catch me in the nose-colouring store." "Oh, Punch, I was hoping you'd go." Punchinello recognised the voice immediately. "Twiggy?" He turned, and he looked at the wide-eyed, sweet-smiling Wemmick. His ears began to turn red. They always did when he saw her. He reached up and he covered them. "Why don't you paint your nose, Punch? I painted mine. Everyone else is painting theirs. Besides, you'd look good in green." Twiggy reached up and touched the tip of his nose. "Yours is so cute." With that she giggled and walked away. "Bye-bye," she waved. Punchinello moved one hand from his ear to his nose. He turned and looked at his reflection in the shop window. Lucia had to grab his hand to get his attention. "Come on, Punchinello, let's go." As he walked past the store, he noticed Willie Withit examining his nose in a handheld mirror. Later at home, he did the same. "I never noticed before, but my nose sure looks pale." The next morning, Punchinello walked down the street with his friends Splint and Woody. "Are you really thinking about it?" Woody asked. "Sort of," Punchinello answered. "They say the paint stings your nose," Woody volunteered. "And it stinks," Splint added. "The brush could get in your eyes," Woody continued. "And it only comes off with sandpaper," Splint nodded. "Shh." Punchinello put a finger to his lips and pointed at a large crowd of green-nosed Wemmicks standing in the square. "Something's going on." The mayor was standing up high on a platform, and his wife, nose freshly painted, and Willie Withit were on either side of him. "Welcome, one and all, to the first meeting of the Nosy Wemmicks Club," he announced. "Your glistening green sets you apart as Withit Wemmick." As if on cue, Wemmicks began stroking their noses. "You are classy. You are keen. You are awesome. You are green." Proud of his poetry, the mayor smiled, and the Wemmicks applauded. "We owe it all to Willie Withit," he shouted over the noise, "the pioneer of the painted snout." Everyone applauded even louder. "People love me because of you," one shouted. I have more friends, cried another. With a green nose, I am a better Wemmick, exclaimed a third. The mayor hung a medal around the neck of Willie with it. You have changed the face of Wemmicksville. We salute your brilliance. Without you, we'd all look like, The mayor paused, looking for the right word. Then he saw Punchinello and his friends, and pointing in a direction, he declared with a scornful laugh, like them. Everyone else laughed too. Punchinello and his two friends lowered their heads and covered their noses. Let's hear it for Willie With It, shouted the mayor, the Wemmick who discovered the cure for the common nose. As the town people shouted and applauded, Woody, Splint, and Punchinello quickly turned and walked away. They didn't stop until they stood in front of the nose-colouring shop. Within a matter of minutes, all three were painted and walking down Wemmick Lane. Hey, Punchinello, asked Splint, pushing his nose upward. Am I doing it right? Punchinello didn't look. I can't see you, Splint. If I turn, my nose won't be in the air. This is tough work, Woody added. Not only do you have to get painted, but you have to walk around all weird. Yeah, but doesn't it feel great to be with it? Punchinello asked. And for a few days, it did. They hung out with other green noses and made weekly visits to the nose accurist for a nose polish. They brought nose gloves for cold days and nose brellas for rainy ones. All three read Willie With It's new book, Winner by a Nose. Most of all, they enjoyed looking down their noses at the unpainted Wemmicks. One day, when they were feeling especially smug, Splint said to Punchinello, I just can't imagine who wouldn't have a green nose. Punchinello agreed. Anyone without a green nose is so what? A voice interrupted. It was Lucia. Punchinello was embarrassed. I haven't seen you in a while, he said. You haven't seen anyone in a long time, she replied, except yourself. He started to speak, but didn't. He was bothered by what she said, and he was even more bothered by what he saw. He saw it the next morning as the three were walking into Wemmicksville. Standing on the other side of the road was a Wemmick with a red nose. He needs to get with it, they said to each other. But then they saw another Wemmick also with a red nose, and then a third, and then a fourth. And by the time they were in the village, they were surrounded by red-nosed Wemmicks, and those who weren't red were in line to have their nose painted. Step right up, shouted Willie With It from the steps of his store. Green noses are out, but red noses are in. But we just got our noses painted green, they told him. No problem, he replied. Our red will cover the green. Step right up and get in style. The three friends looked at each other sadly. We thought we were in style, Woody moaned. What could they do but stand in line and have their noses painted red? For a few days they fitted in, until one morning they saw a blue-nosed Wemmick. Oh, no, they said to each other, not again. So they changed colours. But it was only a short time until blue noses were out and pink noses were in. And then pink was out and yellow was in. And then yellow was out and orange was in. Oh my goodness, where is all this going, do you think? Soon Punchinello and his buddies had so many layers of paint on their noses that they couldn't remember what they really looked like. "This has to be the final colour," they said the day they walked out with orange noses. But once again they were wrong. "I'm so tired of this," Woody moaned when he saw a purple-painted Wemmick. "I wish my nose was common again." The three sat on a rock and hung their heads. "Me too," agreed Punchinello. "I should have listened to Eli." "You think he would help us?" "Why don't you ask him?" All three turned round at the sound of the familiar voice. "Lucia," they said. "He asks about you every day," she told them. "Is he angry?" Punchinello wondered. "Sad, but not angry." Punchinello looked up towards Eli's house on the hill. "He told me to tell you to come," Lucia spoke again. "Could I take my friends?" "Of course." "And would you go with me?" "Certainly." And so the four began the long walk up the hill to Eli's house. When they reached the top of the hill, Eli stepped out of the workshop and began walking towards them. He met them in the yard. One by one, he examined their noses. "Been trying to fit in, eh?" Punchinello nodded. "Did you succeed?" "Not really. Every time we got close, someone changed the rules." "That's the way it is," said Eli. "And my neck hurt from sticking my nose in the air," Woody added. "Well," said Eli, "you weren't built to walk that way." "We just want to be ourselves again," Splint said. "I'm glad to hear that." "Can we?" they asked. "Of course you can," Eli replied. "I'll always help you who I made you to be." And then he reached in his pocket, pulled out a piece of sandpaper. "But it's going to take some time." And so Punchinello and his friends followed their maker into the workshop, where he spent the rest of the day removing the paint. It hurt to be sanded, but it was worth it to be normal again. What a strange and amazing story. It teaches us the thought, though, doesn't it, boys and girls? God made each one of us different. He made us exactly how he wants us to be. He doesn't want us to all be the same, to copy each other, to try and be like everyone else. He made us all different and special. We don't have to be one of the crowd, doing the same as the others or keeping up with the next door neighbours because they've got this and we haven't got that. We don't have to wear special clothes or paint our noses or any other part of our body a different colour. God just loves us the way we are. So we should be happy to be like that too and celebrate our differences. Well, that was a longer story than usual, but it was pretty good, wasn't it? Hopefully Mandy will be back soon, 'cause she tells stories better than anybody else I know, even the people that have been stepping in and sharing, brilliant though they are. It'll be good to see her back, won't it? Anyway, after this, I've got a game for you. Hang on, wait there. I'll be back in a moment. Bye for now. Hi, boys and girls. Well, different storyteller this week. That was new, wasn't it? Did you enjoy it? That might happen a bit more in the future. Mandy's still a bit out of action at the moment, but she's recovering slowly. In the meantime, we've got a different game to play this week. It's called, well, I've called it Expressions. What can you do with your face? No, I don't mean paint it. I don't mean put on a mask. We have to do that quite a bit at the moment because of the virus that's going around. Can you make expressions? If I was to pull a certain kind of face, would you guess what kind of mood I'm in? For instance, and I want you to try doing this along with me. If I was to say, I feel happy today, how would you pull a happy face? A smiley, happy face. Mine would be a bit like this. Are you happy? Actually, that looks a bit more daft than happy, doesn't it? Maybe you can do a better happy face than me. Try with me. Are you ready? Yeah. But this time, can you guess what this face is? That's my sad face. I'm not very good at this, am I? Can you do a sad face? Go on, have a go now. Go into mum or dad or one of your brothers and sisters and say, can you guess what face this is? And do a sad face. There's some good sad faces there, better than mine. Okay, this time I'm just going to lubricate my throat with a cup of coffee. Bear with me. This time I want to do a confused face, a bewildered face, I don't understand face. Are you ready? Can you do a confused face? Have a go. That's good. Now, this time I'm not going to tell you what my face is. I want to see if you can guess. I want to see if I'm any good at this face acting business. Are we ready? What face is this? Did you guess? It was my angry face, my cross face, my annoyed face, my irritated face. Can you be angry, stumbling around the floor? Face looking as black as thunder, scowling. Yes, we don't want to stay like that for long, do we? Let's move on. What face is this? That was... Well, what do you think it was? I think some of you got it there. Yes, that was my excited face. Can you do an excited face? Imagine it's Christmas morning and you've just seen a pile of presents at the foot of your bed. What would your face look like? Yes, it would, just like that. Very good. Okay. What about this face? This is a bit more difficult. Any ideas? That was hard, wasn't it? That was my curious face, my searching face, my suspicious face, my looking around face, my wonder what's there face. Can you do a curious face? Have a go. Once again, your face isn't much better than mine. What about this face? This is going to be very hard, but one of you might get it. Are we ready? I've called that. Well, did you have any ideas? They're good. Oh, that's a good one as well. It was my doubtful face, my unbelieving face, my I'm not sure about that at all face. Adults would call it my skeptical, my cynical face, but doubtful will do. What about this one? I expect your mum and your dad do this face with you quite a lot, maybe especially when you go to bed at night and they kiss you good night. This is my face. What face is that? Well, once again, I'm not great at doing these faces, but that was my loving face, my I love you face. I love you, son. I love you, daughter. I love you, brother. I love you, sister. You might use that face. I love you, Dad. I love you, Mom. Or to your dog, I love you, Rex, or whatever you called him. What about this face? I expect your teachers sometimes use this face, and maybe your mum and dad too. This is my You've seen that face before. That was my I told you so face. When we make mistakes and our parents or teachers have told us, don't do it like that, you'll get it wrong. That's not the way to do it. But we didn't pay any attention and we tried anyway and made a mess of it. That's the I told you so face. Can you do one like that? I've got 3 more faces to do. See if you can guess this next one. Did you guess? I hope you never have to have faces like that. That was my worried face. I'm bothered. This is a problem. I'm really worried about that kind of face. Can you do a face like that? Have a go. I'll watch you this time. Oh, yes, you're so much better than me. I can see that straight away. Well done, everyone. The penultimate face. That's a long word, isn't it? Face. No, not face. Penultimate. That's a long word. It means next to last. Second to last. This is my second to last face. Did you guess? That was my I'm in pain face. That hurts face. Ooh, spots face. You look like when you get a toothache or a headache, or in my case, a nose ache. Mandy always says I've got a very big nose. I think she's right, actually. And my last face. What face is this? Can you do this? What face was that? That was my frightened face. Can you do a frightened face? I hope you only ever have to pretend to do some of these faces and that you never really feel that way. It's just as well we've got families to look after us and help us, and most of all, God is with us all of the time to take care of us. Well, that's my game for this week. Who will be telling the story next week? Will Mandy be fit and strong and able to tell it to us? Or will somebody else, maybe somebody new again, share the story with us? And there'll certainly be another game. But for now, this is Steve saying bye for another week. See you next Sunday. Bye.